Hey everybody, this is Justin Taylor with SUPWordGuide.com, and today we're going to be reviewing the Isle Switch 2-in-1 kayak / stand-up paddleboard. And when we got this in, we were very intrigued for a couple reasons. First, this is the first product that has been taken through the entire design process by Isle's new VP of product, Jimmy Blakeney, who is an industry vet, and so we're very interested to see what he could do here. Second, to be completely honest, I'm not usually a huge fan of the kayak stand-up paddleboard combo. Usually when I get on like the kayak conversion kits, they're very uncomfortable. With that being said, I'm the most inflexible person you will literally ever meet, and they're just not usually very comfortable or very fun for me. So again, very intrigued and interested to see how this one did. And then third, this is a very large stand-up paddleboard. It's 11'6" by 35.5, but the weight is just over 19 pounds. And so we've never actually tested a board this big that weighed that little. So the question is, how did this do in our testing? Stick with us as we dive in and go through it all. Okay, so before we dive into our testing, I want to go through everything that you get included with the kit. So again, note that everything I'm going to show here is what you get when you order the kit online. None of this is extra. You're going to see you get a lot of stuff, right? First of all, the backpack. So the total kit weight is, when we weighed it, it's just over 35 pounds. So surprisingly, it's easy to carry. I really like how they have these nice handles on the tops and the sides here. And as I turn it around, you'll see it also has nice padded straps and a hip strap. So again, very easy to carry. Not something I would want to do like a 5-mile hike on per se, but surprisingly lighter and better fitting than what you would expect. The only thing I'd say that the backpack doesn't have is it doesn't have wheels. So I would like to see that in the next version. That's just my personal opinion. We carry around a lot of boards though, so maybe others don't care as much. But I do typically like to see wheels there. So now let's dive inside, right? So what you have inside here. So first you've got the board / kayak. You can see very lightweight, nice and compact. And if you are traveling and want to really cut down on sizing, you can just take this out and transport it that way. Next, you have the different kayak pieces, right? So this is the footrest that you have. This is the seat. As you can see, they're two separate kind of inflatable pieces. Very easy to inflate, by the way. And then the back to the seat. So it does include all the kayak accessories that you need to get kayaking. You have the single chamber pump here. So it's a single chamber, dual action pump. It is a good quality pump. Personally, I'd like to see them, given the fact that this bag's already kind of big and the board's bigger, I wouldn't mind a dual chamber pump. However, I'm just gonna recommend that you buy an electric pump anyways, so not that big of a deal. You have the nice coiled leash, very comfortable, did a great job. And I do also really like this large center fin. It's easy to get in and out, very simple to use, but you have a little more versatility with this system because it is the US fin box. So great job on that. And then you have their 4-piece paddle. Now with that, you have 2 ends like this. Okay, so these 2 ends you use if you're doing the kayak setup. Then you have the centerpiece. And here's the top piece. So, a couple things to notice about this paddle setup. 4 pieces, it is aluminum. Now, typically I'm not a huge fan of aluminum paddles. They tend to bend during our speed tests, but this one's definitely a higher grade aluminum than most other aluminum paddles that we tested, so I don't mind it as much. I would love to see more of a fiberglass or maybe a composite carbon fiber fiberglass blend in future paddles. But overall, there's some really intriguing things about the paddle that I do like. One is the shape. So this is the center handle portion, and it's padded and has this cool little grip to it. And the shape, it's not perfectly circular. So this is narrower than this, and so when you're kayaking, kind of grab it, it actually makes it very comfortable to hold, and I really like that. If you are using this as a stand-up paddleboard, you'll insert this part into the top. If you're using it as a kayak, you will use these two ends. One goes here, and the other goes here. So very functional, very nice that they include this in the kit. And as you can see, it has everything that you'll need to get out on the water as a kayak or as a SUP. And I like the fact that and remember, as you're comparing prices across different brands, you don't have to pay extra for the kayak kit. A lot of times you have to pay an extra 75 bucks, 125 bucks for that. That is all included. So well done by Isle. So it's 11.5 feet long by 35.5 inches wide, which we did measure and verify. A lot of times in the past couple of years, boards have been a little bit off on the width. This was right at 35.5 inch. And then it's also 6 inches thick. So you have a lot of volume. There's 360 liters of volume on the switch, which gives you a 425 pound weight capacity. And really the thing that stands out amongst all of that is the fact that this weighs just 19 pounds. And so how did Isle do that? How did they create such a big board that weighs just 19 pounds? That was my first question for Jimmy. And to answer it, we have to go through basically all the features of the board, right? So I'm gonna do that with you here. So looking here, you see, first of all, you see a full length deck pad with some nice grooves here. The deck pad is nice and comfortable. It's not slippery. It does a really good job. It does not have kind of the logo imprints. That's probably the only thing I'd say I'd like to see on it. But it's actually really cool that they made a lightweight board with a full length deck pad. A lot of times you'll see people cutting the deck pad here or splitting into two to cut weight. Isle didn't do that on the switch, so great job there. You'll notice they have the rear bungees, the front bungees, and these actually you can remove really easily. And so I like that. If you don't want them, get them off. They have handles. So in the rear here, the handle, the middle handle, and the front handle. And then down here, you'll see the paddle holder, which is really nice. Just if you're out kind of relaxing, it's nice to be able to store your paddle there. And the feature that stands out probably the most are these nylon loops at the side. Now this is Isle's patented Link Connect system, and they're nylon loops that are, again, we haven't been able to test this because we haven't had it that long, but they were built to be UV saltwater resistant, so they should last a long while. And you can see they run all the way from the tail to the front of the board. So really cool, really versatile, especially when you're attaching the kayak seat, because you're able to put that kayak seat wherever you want. If you're 6'6", if you're 4'10", if you have a child, if you don't, you can just adjust, and it makes this board very, very versatile. Really, the only thing that the board is missing would be a action mount, right? They even have on the back side, there is a D-ring for towing. You'll notice there's not D-rings here. You'll notice that there isn't an action mount. And that, again, I actually am a big fan of them taking off the D-rings and replace them with these nylon loops, simply because one, that does help cut weight. Number two, if you do slip and fall on a D-ring, it can hurt a little bit. These don't hurt at all. The only thing, like I said, that I would add, it'd be nice if you added an action mount or two. If you wanted to add like a cup holder or a phone holder or a fishing rod holder, that you could do on the board that you don't have now. But everything else, fantastic job on the features that come with the board. With the construction of the Isle switch, going back to our initial question for Jimmy, of how did they make this board so big, but yet still light, and how would it hold up in our bend test, which is a really good indication of quality and durability. So Isle used what they call their AirTech Fusion Lite construction on this. Now, what the hell is that, right? Every brand uses different wording, so let's dive into what that actually means for Isle. First of all, on the inside is an X woven drop stitch. What that is, just like the word says, X woven, so it's woven in an X pattern instead of linear. That makes it stronger. It also, because it's stronger, you can actually remove some of the threads and have less thread count and still get the same strength. So that is one key area that they were able to cut some weight without sacrificing any performance. Second, they used a custom thickness single layer PVC. So that cuts down on glue, cuts down on weight, and what they talked about is, in theory, that could also cut down on glue failures, which is very nice. So and to be honest, we were very surprised at how stiff this board feels. They do have a dual layer rails, and then they also added kind of this triple stringer construction, where down the middle and down the side on the top here, they have these stringers. And so the goal of all of that, again, is to be lightweight, but still durable. And to be honest, it held up really well in our bend test. So I'm gonna show you our bend test. What it is, we take the board, we put about 7 feet apart on these sawhorses, and we add 150 pounds to the middle here. So we have these sandbags, we put them on, and then we measure where it was before, and we measure where it was after. So you see that there's some bend here. Some of that bend is actually exaggerated by kind of the already banana shape of the board, but the difference that we got really was very superb. It was only 1 1/16 inches of bend when we did our test, and that puts it right in that top kind of 10 to 15%, which is very unusual for a board this light. And so we actually would say 2 thumbs up on the construction quality of the Isle switch, and we think they did a really good job there. On to our performance testing of the Isle switch, and first up, stability. So Isle has a rating of 425 pounds on the board. Now, what we did to test this is me and Allie both got on here. Allie was sitting down, I was standing up. So 320 pounds-ish is what we had. And to be honest, I don't think you'd have any problem approaching that 425 pounds in terms of stability. It was rock solid with both of us on, even when both of us were standing. Now, I'm not gonna recommend 2 people standing paddling because it does get a little less stable there. But for 1 person sitting, 1 person standing, adding a cooler, adding some, sleeping bags or other gear, like this is going to be a very solid platform and is really good stability for larger, taller, and beginner paddlers. It's one of the reasons why we do recommend this to so many people, because a lot of people fit that description. Now, on to maneuverability. So this actually surprised us a little bit, right? Typically something that's 11'6" long, 35.5 inches wide isn't gonna be the most maneuverable board. But both me and Allie actually found it very easy to turn with sweep strokes, and the back step turns were actually a lot of fun and would be a great beginner board to learn the step back turn, simply because of how light the board is and how wide this tail is. It gives you a nice stable flat platform to step back, easy to pop the nose up and kind of disengage the board from the water and spin around. So it just makes it nice and fun to do as you progress. And again, makes this nice and maneuverable as a stand-up paddleboard. Now, from a tracking and speed standpoint, also another area that did surprise us a little bit. We were not, it's a big board, so I'm gonna be straight up, it's not gonna compete with a touring SUP, it's not supposed to, and that's not what we were looking at. When I was out speed testing it, I was able to get kind of a max of about 5.3 miles per hour. And so that's in a sprint where I kind of get going and then really push it hard for 10 seconds, trying to identify kind of the max speed of the board. You're not going to sustain that, right? At a sustained pace, what I'd call more of a touring kind of high cruising pace, I was able to maintain about a 4 to 4.1 miles per hour, which is really good. Allie took this out against the Blackfin Model XL, which is similar length, similar width, and she was faster, which did not surprise us simply because, again, of the weight of the board. Especially for smaller paddlers, Allie really enjoyed this because sometimes if you get a board that's like 28, 29 pounds, it's just a little bit harder for someone smaller, shorter to get the board going. But the aisle switch really had a nice quick feel off the line, and then the glide, it just has a really good glide feel. And so I think that also helped kind of give us those results that we got in the speed test. So overall, from a performance standpoint, excellent job on the aisle switch. Okay, so how did the aisle switch do performance-wise as a kayak? You'll notice that we haven't done a lot of kayak reviews on SUP Guide yet, and that's because at our heart, we're stand-up paddleboarders. However, we're starting to see a pretty big trend with these paddleboard companies starting to create kayaks, and the aisle switch kind of sits right in the middle of being both at one. So as I talk about the performance, I'm actually not going to dive into super technical details. I'm going to leave that for Mike, our buddy Mike over at inflatable.com. That's his background. Instead, I'm going to actually approach this as a stand-up paddleboarder who also wants a versatile board who can also sit down and kayak kind of at the same time. And from that standpoint, we have to give two very big thumbs up to the aisle switch. This was so much more fun than I expected. You know, when I first took this out, I fully went out under the assumption that I was going to be stand-up paddleboarding the vast majority of the time. But as soon as I set it up as a kayak and tried it out, it really did just perform better than I thought. It was faster than I thought. It was more comfortable than I thought. And it makes this board so much more versatile. You know, and the key to that is how they've done this kayak conversion kit, right? So you'll notice the seat, it's a raised seat, so you're in a much more comfortable position. And this footrest here, you can really push into, and that just lets you really kayak more how you're supposed to, and it makes it comfortable. I've mentioned that several times because I am one of the least flexible people you will ever meet. And all the other kayak conversion kits that I've tried, frankly, it's just too uncomfortable for me to use. This one, I use. And the switch has quickly become one of the boards that I'm routinely taking out when I'm taking my kids out paddleboarding. And that's because of the versatility. You know, with this link system, I can move the seat back further, I can move it more forward. So when I take out my 5-year-old, I just move the seat forward and he can sit and be super comfortable as I'm paddleboarding around. If I want to then me jump back on it, I can move it back. He can sit up front, and it just is, again, very versatile, very fun, and performs really good as a recreational kayak SUP combo. All right, so as you can tell, we have been very impressed with the aisle switch. It really performed much better on all of our testing than we expected. From our bend test to our speed test, we really think that aisle deserves two very big thumbs up for what they have created. Because kind of bottom line, they have created a legitimate SUP kayak combo, and probably the most legitimate one that we've found on the market so far. And as a bigger paddleboard, we found it to be, one, made with really high quality materials. We expect this to be very durable going forward. It is very stable, and I think it'll be a very good board for the taller or heavier paddlers, but it's still fast for bigger boards. You know, no, this is not a touring SUP. It is not something that if you're doing a 10K, this is not gonna be your first choice, obviously, but for larger boards, this was actually one of the faster boards that we've tested, and so we've been very happy with it. And being able to do all of that right at 19 pounds, that is why we've awarded this as one of our top rated inflatable paddle boards for this year, and also why we think it's probably the most interesting paddleboard that came to the market this year. Okay, I hope you found this review helpful, and if you did, please like and subscribe to our channel. You can also go down below in the description and you'll see a link to our full in-depth review of the ISLE switch, where there's all the photos and all the testing that we put this through. You can read that there. You can also follow the other link that will take you to ISLE's website, where you can purchase the switch if you would like. And then as always, if you have any questions or comments that you'd like to make, if there's something we left out of the review, please leave those questions in the comments below. So for SUP Board Guide, I'm Justin Taylor. Thank you for watching, and I hope to see you out on the water soon.